Good evening. The meeting of the Public Safety Commission has been called to order. We begin to acknowledge that the land on which we gather and that is currently known as the City of West Hollywood is the occupied, unceded, seized territory of the Gabrielino Tongva and the Gabrielino Kits people. Next on our agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance, and this evening, Vice Chair Harrison will lead us to the pledge. Commission Secretary, may I get a roll call, please?
Commissioner Blau?
Aye.
Commissioner Eng?
Here.
Commissioner Nickel?
Here.
Commissioner Pilarski?
Here.
Vice Chair Harrison?
Here.
Chair Aramian?
Present.
And Commissioner Hallman is absent this meeting, and we have a quorum.
Thank you. Item 4 on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Are there any changes to tonight's agenda for May 12, 2025?
There are no changes.
Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. And seconded.
May I please get a roll call, Commission Secretary?
Commissioner Blau?
Aye.
Commissioner Eng?
Aye.
Commissioner Nickel?
Aye.
Commissioner Pilarski?
Aye.
Vice Chair Harrison?
Aye.
Chair Aramian?
Aye.
The agenda is approved.
Item 5 on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. Are there any changes to the minutes for April 28, 2025?
There are no changes.
Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
May I please get a roll call, Commission Secretary?
Commissioner Blau?
Aye.
Commissioner Eng?
Aye.
Commissioner Nickel?
Aye.
Commissioner Pilarski?
Aye.
Vice Chair Harrison?
Aye.
Chair Aramian?
Aye.
The minutes are approved.
Great. Next item on our agenda are public comments. Commission Secretary, do we have any speakers at this time?
Yes, we have one public speaker, Jonathan Wilson. If you want to approach the podium, you'll have 3 minutes.
Well, hello, Commissioner, or Chair, Vice Chair, and Commissioners. My name is Jonathan Wilson. I am a resident here in West Hollywood and also a business owner in the city. I actually wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about 2 things. One, I wanted to bring up, don't forget about the Center for Policing Equity. Would love to hear your thoughts on what we can do around anything that was around a recommendation regarding BIPOC treatment. So would love to hear your thoughts on that. I know that the presentation was given to you guys about 2 years ago, but there's nothing that's come from that. So would love for you guys to circle back on that. That's part 1. Part 2, there is, I believe I've done some thinking about it. I've actually talked over with Lieutenant and with Danny Rivas around some of the issues that we're having with some people being able to make reports. And so I'd love to advocate for additional technology or something along those lines that would allow people additional processes that allow people easier access to basically file reports with the Sheriff's Department. And I think part of that might mean that I know and I recognize that the ambassadors are going to be working on, together with the Sheriff's Department and be able to collect those reports and take those reports. They can't do everything, obviously, because there's some things that they're going to need to have to be able to, some I guess procedures that they have to be able to take the full reports. But I'd love to understand what that process looks like and understand how we're going to leverage technology and make sure every voice is heard. So the minute that someone steps into the Sheriff's Department, if they have a report to make, that they're actually heard almost right away, or at least it's triaged right away, and the record is accounted for. That's the bigger thing, because I'm wondering about whether or not we can depend on looking at strictly what reports are being taken and what are not. I would just love for every voice to be counted and for us to make sure that we're putting that as one of the biggest priorities to make sure that our safety is at the forefront of everybody's mind. So with that said, those are the 2 things that I had today. And in addition to saying welcome to Commissioner Pilarski and Commissioner Eng. So in addition to that, so thank you guys again. All right.
Thank you, Jonathan. I think that is all for the public comments.
Thank you. Item 7 is unfinished business, and there is no unfinished business on the agenda for this evening. Moving on to item 8A is new business, and we will receive a report from the Los Angeles County Fire Department, who will provide a report on April's activity.
Good evening, and happy to be here. Seems like I was just here, and I'm glad to be back. So just thank you to the City of West Hollywood for allowing us to be your fire department. And I really appreciate how engaged you are with your fire department. It brings significant value to the community and to all of us, so thank you for that. And with that, your fire family, meaning fire stations 7 and 8, are doing really good, so thank you. So I have comparisons for 24 and 25. I'll go through April of 25. Just to start out, we're still averaging 20 runs a shift for the 2 stations in West Hollywood. So nothing I saw was out of the ordinary. We had a total of 6 fires in the month of April, 3 of which, no surprise to anybody, were dumpster fires. 1 vehicle fire, 1 cooking fire, 1 outdoor type fire that wasn't related to a dumpster. It was just a small fire that was outside on the lawn of off of Sunset. So it was a small little something. With the medical responses, those were within average. We had a total of 439 rescue calls, 114 which required advanced life support, 189 which required basic life support. We transported 303 patients, and total patients seen were 439. We had 0 hazardous materials calls. We had 5 hazardous condition calls, which were basically service lines, gas leaks, nothing out of the ordinary for that. So routine city stuff that happens that warranted a hazardous condition call. We had 5 service calls and 159 good intent calls. And I know I close with this all the time. I love my good intent calls. And the why? It's because people are paying attention. They call and they let us come evaluate what needs to be done and take the correct course of action. And comparatively speaking, for where we were at last year in April of 2024, still within reason. You know, you're chasing 1 or 2, maybe 5 calls a month. For last year, we had 559 total responses, with this year being 614. But last year we had 10 fires, which we had more dumpster fires and vehicle fires a year ago at this type of April. And everything else with the medical responses is relatively the same, and it is pretty consistent for West Hollywood and what we see. And just knowing that with having a city, dynamics, it's hard to chase a lot of times that with fires, that there's any type of commonality. It's just depends. You can't say that April is any different than it was in May or it is in August just because you see an uptick, unless there's a determination on the why behind something. And I've talked to a determination on why on several times that we have some threat to, and one of those is our lithium-ion batteries. So could we, I'm not saying we do, but nationally we do. In West Hollywood, we haven't tracked or seen that uptick. So could we have an upswing in lithium-ion battery fires? The answer is yes, because nationally it is happening. That's when we have our different electronic devices that you plug in. You have your e-bikes, you got your Roomba vacuum cleaner, you got all these things that could cause failure. So we haven't seen an uptick. That would be something statistically that we could bring, something that we do have that analysis of, that we do see an uptake in there. So is it a potential? And we've talked about that before, that is a concern, just with any of the electronics and such. So that's one thing. But as a message I have is what we're seeing as we get into spring and into early summer, as our residents, possibly in West Hollywood, but as they navigate the beautiful Southern California area we're in, just be careful of snakes because statistically, we are having more snake calls and more snake bites. So, as we know that people actually get out of the city of West Hollywood, they go and do their recreation wherever they do. I just want to bring an awareness to just be cautious of snakes. Public service announcement. So with that, is there any questions for me?
Commissioners, any questions? Commissioner Eng?
Thank you, Chair. Captain Smith, actually, then I want to ask about the snake bites. Commissioner Pilarski and I are definitely dog people, and I know in the past that there used to be a recommendation that you get like a vax or some sort of shot. So I don't know if you're aware of that or if that has proven to be.
I don't know anything about a vaccination for
Not-
snake bites or an anti-venom. I know that we will treat at the right medical facility that will have an anti-venom type of medication prescribed. But as far as proactive, as far as something on a vaccination, I am not aware of that.
Okay, well, I'll find that. I'll look for that
I'll have
information.
to Google that one. I'm kidding. No, I don't know that.
Okay, and then the next thing, completely unrelated to what we just discussed, with Pride coming up, is there any, I don't know, are there any trends that you notice or anything that you want to say to the public to keep an eye out for or that we should be mindful of?
So we do. So as a unified voice for Pride and unified command with your great West Hollywood Sheriff's Department, okay, we make decisions together in a unified posture with that. And so we want people to, if you see something, say something. We're going to have a robust workforce with the fire side of the house, the law side of the house. We're co-located together on how we deal with this. So the biggest thing is knowing and having a situational awareness around you. And if you see something that is really out of character for what may be going on at a big public assembly, please, 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 we have lots of law enforcement there. We have lots of firefighters there. Come up and say something and let us be the ones to determine what the course of action needs to be. So be proactive on if you see something, please report so we can evaluate what the best course of action is.
There's no increase in dumpster fires during that time, or are there?
Well, I can say that there could be, because when you have an increased population and people, let's say, are having a good time and maybe could potentially get a little careless, could it increase the potential for a lot of different types of calls? Absolutely, and we see that. But as far as tracking, hey, when we have Pride, do we have a significant increase in dumpster fires? I don't think so, because I've been the incident commander with the sheriffs at Pride, and I can say that we have not been on like, oh my gosh, another dumpster fire. We haven't. Usually it's, truthfully, it was safe to say alcohol-related incidents would be a fair statement, but we haven't seen an uptick in any fire calls. You're welcome.
Any other commissioners? Commission Secretary, do we have any public speakers?
We have no public speakers.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for the support. Appreciate it.
Item 8B on our agenda this evening is a report from Block by Block security ambassadors who will provide a report on April's activity.
Good evening, Commissioners. For April, for the month of April, our ambassadors conducted 4,200 business contacts throughout the city, made contact with 1,249 unhoused individuals, yielded 686 calls for service, and provided 30 safety escorts. When looking at our statistics compared to the same month last year, we did see a slight decline in unhoused contacts as well as calls for service. Unhoused contacts and safety escorts. But over the last few weeks, we have seen an increase in Mid-City with calls for service and unhoused individuals. So that is an area of focus for us. So we are adjusting our deployments as needed to make sure that we are able to increase contact in that area. We have also seen a decrease in contacts in our parks over the last month, and that I think is directly attributed to the SSO's program that is currently at the parks. Continual contact with individuals, I think, has yielded less activity at the parks that is being reported through our statistics. And for the rest of May, we are definitely getting ready for Pride, making sure that our deployments are in line with supporting code enforcement. A lot of our focus for Pride is predominantly around making sure that hot dog vendors don't enter the boulevard and don't disrupt businesses on the boulevard. And in addition, what we noticed last year was we did notice that there were several, like Captain Smith said, intoxicated individuals, but what we noticed were intoxicated individuals that did not have somebody with them. So for our ambassadors, a big focus is to make sure that if we see any intoxicated individuals, we're making contact and we make sure we get them either medical assistance or try to locate their parties if they've been disconnected from their parties. Aside from that, obviously this past weekend was a really hot weekend. We had WeHo Cares visit our teams on Friday and give us a refresher update on the services they offer and allowed our ambassadors to ask any questions on their social services and how we can further utilize them. And it was also a great reminder to our team to continue wellness checks. It was hot this weekend, so we will continue to conduct increased wellness checks on individuals, even if they're not in violation of any ordinance, just simply checking on folks, make sure that everybody is good and hydrated. And so that is the focus for the rest of the month. And I'll take any questions if anybody has any.
Vice Chair Harrison.
Erica.
Hi.
Again. Question about the bike miles ridden. Is that a staffing issue or is that an equipment issue, the decrease?
No, not a staffing issue, definitely an equipment issue. I think I've stated in the past that our equipment has definitely had miles on it. We're currently actively replacing some of the equipment, but as our equipment ages, especially the bikes, as much use as they are getting, we are increasingly having to repair them. So obviously, it's no secret that we are in the RFP process, and so as we look to hopefully renew our contract, we are looking to upgrade bikes as well. But anytime we are not able to be on a bike patrol, we are also doing foot patrols, which is the majority of the work that we do anyhow. Obviously, bikes help us get to calls for service a bit quicker, but that is where you might see some decline in bicycle miles.
Thanks.
Commissioner Blau.
Thank you, Chair. Hello, Erica. Thank you for the report. 2 questions. One, you mentioned an SSO program that's happening at the park. Can you elaborate? Is that part of Block by Block or is that done?
Yeah, so last year in November, we announced a senior safety officer program at Plummer Park and WeHo Park, and these were former law enforcement individuals that we hired to address park-specific quality of life issues. And so that program has been live since last November. And so obviously these gentlemen have very specific training, more elevated experience and ability to make contact with individuals, and specific, obviously, experience around de-escalation and conflict resolution, emergency response, obviously that our ambassadors are not going to have, they're not former law enforcement. So we went live with that program last year, and so it's now been about 6 months, I believe, if my math is correct. But what I'm seeing is a decrease in contacts at the parks, and mainly these individuals are at the parks making consistent contacts. So, and they're only deployed to the parks. So we have seen a significant decrease in regular individuals that we were seeing at the parks that are no longer frequenting. So a good sign.
And is that specifically and exclusively at WeHo Park and Plummer Park?
It is.
Okay, thank you. Second question. I can't tell on here, it's not listed on here, but does Block by Block go and visit all the parks within the city kind of on a daily basis, especially the ones with bathrooms is the one I'm thinking of?
Yeah, so part of our responsibilities, is we also close up the pocket, what we call pocket parks, like for most Hart Park, Laurel, Kings Road, in addition to proactively patrolling those areas, but we also lock up those parks at the end of the night to make sure that they're clear, there's no one in the restrooms.
Got it.
And report accordingly if there are.
Okay, just a note that I wanted to make then about that was last week I was visiting Kings Road Park. I was just walking around and I heard a large commotion going on in the bathroom. And it turns out that a resident was, what is the right word? Engaged with, basically fighting with an unhoused individual in the bathroom. They were screaming at each other. It seems like that person regularly comes back to that park and locks himself in the men's bathroom there. It was a weekday, I want to call it a Tuesday, circa like 4 or 5 p.m., just as a note for a point. But it sounds like he's frequently there enough that the resident was familiar with him. So I just wanted to make sure that you were, that Block by Block, or someone was checking in on them on that. And I escalated the issue, obviously, when it was happening.
And maybe after the meeting, you can provide a description if they have one of the individuals, so we can make our ambassadors aware and proactively patrol the area. But prior to closing the parks, we always do a check of the restrooms, make sure that anybody that is in there exits and the parks are clear.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Polarski?
Thank you, Chair. Hi, Erica. How are you? I wanted to just say thank you so much for Saturday's presentation to our WeHo Civic Leadership Group. I thought that was a tremendous presentation. I'll go into that later, but it was really straightforward and a lot of good information, so thank you for that. I had a question echoing a little bit about Pride. Is there anything that we should highlight to the residents of WeHo on like different booths or podiums or anything we're doing specific for that weekend as far as the ambassadors go?
In regards to ambassador specific information that we would be giving?
Locations, I would say.
Oh, locations.
Yeah.
So we generally shift our deployments obviously to the west side, since that is where a bulk of the activity is. We're still patrolling on the east side, but a bulk of it does change to the west side. So as far as kiosks are concerned, that is something that will come at the direction of the city.
Okay.
So once I have that, I'll be happy to provide that. We will be provided extending services on the trolleys. And then I know that we do Pride-specific deployments in the Rainbow District to deter certain areas where vendors are known to frequent and get into the boulevard, which are mainly from Palm to Robertson and all the streets in between.
Okay.
So that is what we did last year. Again, it might change at the direction of the city. So once I have any other specific locations, I will be communicating that with you.
Okay, great. I had one other thing here. I wanted to encourage your ambassadors on bikes to stop by the City of West Hollywood bike safety event tomorrow at 8 to 10 o'clock. They'll be handing out bike lights and have information on street safety for the city. So if you can encourage your ambassadors to stop by and say hi, that would be fantastic.
Amazing. Definitely.
Thank you.
Commissioner Eng?
Thank you. I've seen your your special ops out. I always tease them and say you're
the
black
ops.
ops because
Black
they're,
ops, yes.
they're wearing all black. Just actually what you said about the weekend, I'm wondering if there are any special considerations or changes for the ambassadors when they're out in the street when it's super hot. I don't know if they get more breaks or they can wear shorts, or I don't know if there's anything that is maybe taken into consideration for them when the weather is like that.
Absolutely. So we definitely provide shorts, anybody that wants to wear them, but they tend to be a little shy with the shorts. And water breaks are definitely something that we encourage, increased water breaks, and we also do an extra training around making sure that they know how to identify the signs of heat exhaustion. So not only within themselves, but also the public. And so that is something that we continue to train on, especially as we get into the summer season. Aside from that, we also provide a lot outside of just water. We provide Gatorade and make sure that the ambassadors have that access at both of our bases so they can continue to replenish the electrolytes. But increased water breaks are definitely something that we encourage, and so whenever they need to do that, they simply call it out via radio communication, and they're able to do that.
Commissioner Nickel.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks for your report, Erica. Call 16. I'm always concerned when we see that one of our ambassadors have been assaulted. Can you say what happened, and is the ambassador
Sure.
all right?
Yeah, so we had two ambassadors who were on a proactive patrol near Kings Road Park, actually. They encountered an individual who was increasingly verbally aggressive, potentially leading to more physical aggression, so they asked the team lead for support. That team lead began to engage with the individual, and at which point that individual threw a glass bottle at their leg. And so not causing any serious injury, but of course, you know, we always engage our deputy sheriffs to press charges. We always encourage our ambassadors anytime there's any sort of assault, big or small, to press charges. But they were perfectly fine, did not require any medical attention. What I do want to reiterate is I know that it always is jarring when we see an ambassador assault, you know, on any report, and for us, we take it very seriously, so we make sure that they are all well aware of, you know, safety protocols, how to approach individuals, especially when someone is becoming more physically aggressive. But in the totality of how many times we make contact throughout a year, ambassador assault percentages are really, really low. And I think just in unarmed guard services, whether you're, you know, providing services at a nightclub or, you know, any other sort of institution, it's almost like an occupational hazard. But we definitely train our ambassadors on safety protocols, and like these ambassadors, you know, called for backup from their team lead, who then took the lead on the situation. So training is important.
Good. It's good to hear that the ambassador's okay. I'm sorry they had to deal with that. I'm glad that the percentages are very low, but it would be nice if there weren't any, of course. So residents, just remember when we see the ambassadors, they're out there, and it can be rough for them too. So just thank them for what they do. There was also a call number 22 where there was a deceased individual.
Yeah, so
Anything?
that was a proactive patrol that was being performed by one of our overnight supervisors at the corner of La Brea and Santa Monica. And they encountered an individual who looked to be unresponsive. When they approached the individual, they assessed the individual did not present signs of overdose, so they called paramedics. And at that point, it was they discovered that the individual was deceased. This was a known individual to our ambassadors, someone that we continually made contact with throughout the city. So it's a complicated relationship, I think, sometimes that we have, you know, when we're making in contact with individuals that are unhoused. You know, we also have contract obligations that we need to adhere to, but there always is that human aspect of it. You know, it's a rapport that our ambassadors tend to build over time, and so it's always, regardless, it's always a loss. So unfortunate, but and we are unclear as to how the individual passed.
So we don't know if it's natural causes or...
No, we wouldn't know that.
Okay. One last thing. I did hear from the manager of the Pleasure Chest. He reached out to me There are some concerns because some patrons of apparently apartment 200, which is across the street from the Pleasure Chest, as the bar lets out, that they have been urinating on their property in the bushes. So this is an issue they're dealing with. The people don't seem to care when they're confronted about it. They just continue about their business. So maybe we could have more patrols, just a suggestion, in the area to provide a presence.
Yeah, well, thank you for bringing that to my attention. I will let our overnight teams know just to kind of keep an eye on that. And if they see anybody that's urinating in public, obviously to report that. But as always, if any businesses, are encountering any issues that are non-emergency related, they can always reach out to us directly and we can try to see how we can, help mitigate some of those issues for them.
Great, thank you.
Any other commissioner comments? Commissioner Eng?
Thank you. Actually, to follow up on what Commissioner Nickel just said, if someone is found to be urinating at 2 in the morning, like if block by block comes, they'll tell them to stop, but is there any sort of whatever where they can get ticketed?
Well, we wouldn't have that. Yeah, we wouldn't have that ability, but so what we would do is obviously make contact, and obviously when we're making contact, most of the time someone is going to stop or move along. And so at that point, our hands are tied with giving citations. So, and if any point, if it continues, then obviously we would escalate to sheriff partners.
Any other commissioner comments? Commission Secretary, do we have any public speakers on this item?
We have no public speakers.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Item 8C on our agenda this evening is from the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, who will provide a report on April's activity.
Good evening, Commissioners.
Good evening. Okay, so for our data for the month of April, West Hollywood station personnel handled a total of 1,767 calls for service, 73 of those being emergency response calls, and those 73 calls had an average response time of 3.7 minutes for those calls. Deputies made 38 felony arrests, 64 misdemeanor arrests. West Hollywood Station Part 1 crimes for the month of April, we had 183 incidents, broken down by district: West 57% with 105, City Center 19% with 34, East 24% with 44 of those. There were 34 reported pickpocketing incidents in the Rainbow District. Our MET team responded to 21 incidents this month. Oh, I think that's wrong, actually. I think it was 51. That's my bad. Typo. And we had 51 sorts submissions for the month, which is our online reporting system. When reviewing our crime data and reports this month, I noticed something with our vehicle burglaries, and we'd like to remind the public and people that visit West Hollywood not to leave items of purses, bags, things like that in their vehicles. Almost all of our vehicle burglary reports this month, when reviewing the data, it was something that was left visible inside the car. Thieves are basically opportunistic, and when they see something in a vehicle, they break in and they take items. So we remind people, especially in the shopping areas, don't leave bags, things like that inside your car that's visible, even if it has no value, because people are going to break in and try to steal those items. But I did notice that this month, that was the majority, was something visible. On May 5th at 11:52 p.m., we had a hit and run that occurred at the intersection of Havenhurst and Fountain in the city of West Hollywood. A pedestrian was hit while walking in a marked crosswalk. The car hit him and failed to stop and continued traveling west on Fountain. The pedestrian was seriously injured. Our traffic investigators at the station are currently investigating this incident and encouraging anyone with information to please come forward and contact us if they have anything or saw anything that night. On May 9th at 1:40 p.m., there was a serious traffic collision near the intersection of Clark and San Vicente. A dump truck was at the top of Clark Street near a construction site, and for unknown reasons, that truck began to roll down Clark Street, colliding into several parked vehicles, striking an electrical pole, and then eventually striking the side of a building, Whiskey A Go Go. Power in the area was out for several hours. And again, our traffic investigators are investigating that collision. Our partners at LAPD West Traffic Division came and visited us here at the station today, and they would like to make West Hollywood residents aware that they're holding a free child car seat safety inspection that's open to anybody that wants to come, and they wanted us to let the residents of West Hollywood know as well. It's going to take place Saturday, June 7th, from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the West LA Traffic Office, which is at 1663 Butler Avenue in Los Angeles. Again, it's a free event. What you can do is you bring your vehicle with your child car seat installed, and then a certified technician will inspect it and be sure that that car seat is installed correctly.
Good evening. I have a couple of last meeting, I was going to say last month, but it's been a couple of weeks. There was a couple of questions in regards to Commissioner Pilarski, you asked about the comparison of the DUIs to last year. We have that end of year report that we do. Normally it's a 6-month report, but we do a comparison. So I looked at the comparison from 2024 to now. So for 2024, there was 50 arrests for DUI arrest, and year to date, today it's 30. So it looks like we're going to exceed the DUI arrest based on the numbers. And then Commissioner Blau, you were inquiring about medical calls in reference to how many were under the influence. That's going to be a little hard to try and get those statistics because not all medical calls come through us. And also if somebody calls us for medical, if it's a medical need and they're under the influence, we cannot arrest, we cannot because they're calling us for medical issues. So we cannot use that. So our first priority is medical. So I looked on how different ways to extract that, the numbers, and it's very difficult to gather. I'm sure there might be a way, but right now there is no way of us extracting that, how many medical calls they were under the influence, because we don't collect that data because it's a medical call.
Yeah, thank you. And clarifying the medical as priority was one of my concerns, so that alleviates that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, we do. That's we don't, if medical, they call us medical, we don't deal with whether it's an overdose, whether it is our priority is the medical aspect of it. Now, if the overdose is or drug use is connected to another crime, then that's different. But just for medical purposes alone, we just treat it as a medical call.
Thank you.
And then one of the other things is you asked about the number of arrests, how many of those were unhoused. We're looking at the numbers now as we speak, so we should have those numbers for the June 9th meeting.
Wow.
So you'll have that.
Great.
We'll have that information. And then Commissioner Nickel, you asked in regards to the number of citations for texting so for last year we had 470 citations, and year to date we have 140 thus far. I know that we're in I think I mentioned in one of our meetings that our deputies, we had 16 deputies that were trained to do bike training. So we're happy to say that our deputies, you're going to see them in bikes during Pride. So they'll be out here, and then we're going to start seeing them. It's when we could, with other staffing shortages, we're going to have deputies on bike patrol, and they're also going to be looking into potential crosswalk violations. So, and then our traffic team is also going to be doing the undercover pedestrian enforcement. So when pedestrians are walking the street and vehicles don't yield to them, they're going to be doing some undercover stuff coming up in the near future. So those are the a couple of the questions I wanted to answer that you had, but we're open to any other questions that you might have.
Commissioner Nickel. Commissioner Blau.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. Thank you. Lieutenant Lapkin, how is the department, is it Captain?
Acting Captain.
Acting Captain Lapkin, thank you. How is the Sheriff Department staffing looking broadly? I know that that's been something that we were talking about a lot last year, but I haven't heard an update on that at all.
I mean, we're still down as far as staffing shortages, but I know that the Board of Supervisors has approved for more classes, but it's not the challenge of filling, it's having more classes, but the challenges are filling the classes. So it's not just the Sheriff's Department, I think it's law enforcement in general. Just for numbers sake, we used to have academy sizes of 120, 130. Now we're looking at maybe 50 or 60. So we have classes, but they're smaller in numbers. So the department is doing all they could for recruitment purposes. They hired a firm to try and help us with the recruitment. So we're slowly but surely, graduating deputies, and they're coming out. But I don't think. And I don't know the numbers. I had to see what the attrition rate is and what we're gaining and what we're losing. But I know that the Sheriff's Department is working really hard, and I know the Board of Supervisors has provided funding, even though in the times of budget cuts and things like that, they provided funding specifically to continue to have classes so that we don't fall shorter than what we have now.
Got it. Okay, thank you very much.
Commissioner Pilarski.
Thank you, Chair. So excited to speak to you today, Acting Captain Lafkin. Thank you for your update there about the footbeat and the cycle officers on bicycles. I think there's just like an incredible opportunity for that missing middle if it comes to, like failure to yield, texting while driving, any road rage that happens at the sidewalk level, that would be tremendous. So thank you. Also wanted to say thank you for your presentation on Saturday. That was wonderful. Absolutely fantastic day. One of the things I wanted to touch base on, I have 3 questions, but the first one is, and we spoke about it a little bit on Saturday, but an opportunity to just tell the WeHo residents kind of what special protections we're looking at for Pride in the light of the New Orleans Mardi Gras lessons learned there.
So I know that for Halloween last year, we closed the alleys just because we didn't want any vehicular traffic in the alley north of Santa Monica, from Palm to Robertson. Those alleys were closed, and then after that, we saw the New Orleans, and those are the things that we just didn't want unwanted vehicles there, not only with the amount of pedestrians that we have in our large events, that those are the things that we're always trying to find. If we see a gap or if we see the potential, we're always evolving, we're always reassessing. So, just because it hasn't happened doesn't mean that we haven't thought about it. So just know that you will see a large contingency of both fire, block by block, and law enforcement, but you will also have a contingency of law enforcement that you will not see. So we always pray and hope that nothing will happen, but in the incident that something does occur, we are prepared. And if we need to request mutual aid, or if we need to, we have already plans set in motion for especially those large-scale events.
Thanks so much. I thought it would be good to highlight all the amazing stuff you guys are doing and thinking ahead for that. It's always, unfortunately, on the back of people's minds.
Correct.
I guess the other one was taken care of, but a question about, so the 5 vehicle versus pedestrians that we have listed in the report for April. I was wondering if you could just give a synopsis or maybe like an FAQ on how to file a report if something does happen to you in the crosswalk. Is it something where you call immediately? What kind of information should you take down on the car? Things like that.
So if you've been, if you get hit by a vehicle or something,
Yeah.
Absolutely. If you can, especially on a hit and run. I mean, we don't. I think initially you want to make sure that you're medically. I mean, you keep yourself out of harm's way. But one of the things that we'd like to see is if you license plate, vehicle description, last direction of where they went. It's few far and in between the times that we have, hit and runs. Usually they kind of stick around if they see something happen. But if they don't, just first and foremost, your safety is of the utmost. Put yourself in a position where you're safe, but if you have the opportunity, things that we look at, vehicle description, if you can get a license plate. Now with today's technology, pull out your cell phone, maybe record, and also things that stand out. they have a bumper sticker, they have a sticker, they have, identifying marks that not every other car is going to have. So, if they had, a dent, or if their half of the door was a different color, or any identifying marks that would distinguish them from another vehicle. But ideally, the license plate, a vehicle description, and last known direction.
Thank you. That's really helpful. I think it's a great reminder for everyone.
Yeah.
Also, a good reminder to stop before the crosswalk and stop, look if there's anyone there, and then make your turn. I know I say that every time, but it's just not getting through to people.
And sometimes people do the left and the right, but then they forget to go left again, or whatever side, because you might have looked left, but then you're getting ready to, and then they're there again. So again, just take that extra second to look both ways again, and hopefully, and for our pedestrians also, there's also crosswalk safety. Just don't dash across the street,
right.
Try to use a crosswalk, because sometimes it is that they're trying to run across the street and, a vehicle doesn't see them, and, unfortunately they get hit, but.
Yeah. All right. And when did you say the next biannual is? Or maybe I missed it.
No, so last year we did normally we do a 6-month report, public safety report, but last year we did a January to December, and you can look at on the Public Safety Commission on all the reports. It's on there. It gives you the whole year.
Yeah.
I'm trying to.
Okay.
It has the whole year from our side, and it gives you all the stats. It gives you traffic collisions. With traffic collisions with injury, non-injury, DUI investigations, traffic collisions were pedestrians versus vehicles, traffic investigations with bicycle versus vehicles, total citations written, hit and runs, DUI arrest, speeding citations, and then cellular, the cell phones, whether you're talking or texting. So there's a lot of information on that year report for last year, but we normally try to do it every 6 months.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Quick question. I have a quick question in regards to the sorts report.
Yes,
Can you let us and the community know what type of crimes those reports can be filled out for? If it's a theft, vandalism, and where can they go to fill out those reports?
So the sorts program is an online program that can be done from a phone or computer, essentially. And there is some criteria. It's basically a theft-related or a vandalism-related type of crime where there's no information that the person has about who committed the crime. So we term it whodunit. That's the kind of term that we use. But yeah, so it's a type of a theft where you have no information at all that who took my property or anything like that. No video. If you have video, it does not qualify for the online reporting. You'd have to talk to a deputy in person to file that report. So it's something like something was stolen off my front porch, no idea who it was, no video. Somebody stole something from my car, no video, no idea who it was. And it has to be done online, obviously. And then if there is a problem with it where it didn't qualify, the system will kick back a message to that person letting them know that they have to come into the station and file a report.
And when you say it has to be done online, is it like WehoSheriffs.org /
So if you go to the LASD.org/sorts.
And then in the near future, we're going to be, Sergeant Duran would be adding a computer to our front desk so that when we have volunteers there, because right now we have a QR code. Right now when you walk into the station, you could scan the QR code and it'll take you directly to the link. But in the near future, we're going to have a computer and a monitor and a keyboard so that you can actually file your sorts report there. And then if you need help, somebody can help you with it. Our volunteers, usually man our front desk. So we're this close. We just need to get a few other things to put the monitor and a keyboard there so that the community who wants to file a sorts report can do it online.
My last question, I don't know if you guys will be able to touch on this. There was an incident this afternoon on Larrabee at approximately 4 p.m. Will you guys be able to touch on that a little bit?
The only thing we can say that there was a robbery that took place, we were fortunate enough to see the individual who committed the crime on the street, and deputies apprehended him. and it's under investigation.
Thank you. Commissioner Eng.
Thank you, Chair. To kind of tag on to what Captain Labkin said, in addition to the pedestrians, like, get off your phones, people. That's why they're getting hit, because no one's paying attention. It drives me nuts. And then I'd like to ask Sergeant Duran about sorts. Do we have any stats on how often it's being utilized or how effective it's been?
So in our normal report that you guys receive, there is a little box or a category in there that indicates it. It's toward the bottom of the chart, and it'll tell you, that tells us how many were submitted for the month. And typically, I don't report as to data as to how effective they are, because it's hard to tell. Like I said, a lot of these reports that come in, there's no information that's workable for us, basically, that people have no idea who took their items, but still they need a report for a wide variety of reasons, insurance, things like that. If there is anything that we find out that we can work on, or a detective gets, there's possibly some repercussions for somebody getting arrested, something like that, but I don't have any data that can track that based just on sorts.
Thank you. And then I did speak to you a little bit about this before the meeting, but I'd love for you to just talk about it now, because so many of we commissioners live on the east side. Last week, there was supposedly a gunman at Las Perlas, which you let me know was actually not at Las Perlas. So I'd love if you could talk about that incident, and then I'll have a follow-up question.
So we can't talk too much about it. The case is still ongoing with the courts. It was an isolated incident. It wasn't inside that location, and I think that was reported by some local citizen type app type things. It was in front of it. Person was arrested, very isolated for the reason, but the person that had a gun was arrested.
Okay, and then in general, I guess, where would you, would it be possible for us just to call and ask what happened? Because I did get that information from next door, actually, and only learned today that it was erroneous. So I'm curious how you would recommend us following up on something like that.
So for you on the commission, obviously you guys can reach out to us at any time to get that information. When an incident like that is going on, it's fairly big. There's a lot of moving parts that the station are getting, a lot of people calling in, reporting this and that. It wouldn't be, I guess, wise for somebody to try to call in and ask a bunch of questions at the station at the time that something like that's going on, because there's a lot of, like I said, a lot of different moving parts. We had a helicopter up that night. There were streets closed. So the call takers aren't going to have time to try to give a play-by-play as to what's happening. It would be something more, maybe somebody from the public would come to us at a commission like this and ask that question, and we could give a little bit of information. But the time of the incident, unless there's some downtime, there's not a good time to really ask when a major incident's going on like that.
And then one thing, if I can add, on some of those, it's they have to be very careful what information is released, because it's still going through the court process. So we don't want to jeopardize the case. We don't want to taint the case. We don't want to say, oh, this is what occurred when, we don't want any attorneys to use that information. So that's why a lot of the times it's, we might have more information, but because it's under, it's still going through the court process, we can't say what's happening because we don't want to taint the actual case.
How do you determine when to deploy a helicopter? Why was a helicopter deployed that evening versus just sheriffs and patrol cars going?
So anytime we have a high-risk call like that, it's always better to have an eye in the sky. So we request we have a specific criteria of when we request aero. A lot of the times, that's what we call the helicopter. A lot of the times they're not available. They'll tell us they're not available, and then there's other times where they hear the call and they're in the general area, and they because they are in our area. I mean, they fly out of Long Beach, so a lot of the time we don't. They might not be requested, but they hear the calls because they're monitoring the radio, and then they come and assist us. So.
Any other commissioner comments? Commission Secretary, do we have any public speakers?
Yes, we have two public speakers. The first one is Kevin Burton. If you want to approach the podium, you'll have 3 minutes.
Good evening, Commissioners. Kevin Burton, resident of West Hollywood. And I just wanted to thank you folks for taking an interest in the intersections where there is concern about collisions between vehicles and other vehicles, pedestrians, bicyclists in your discussion last month. That's much appreciated. The changes in infrastructure that might address that are largely the purview of the Transportation Commission, but we always like to hear from other commissions, especially this one, because what is within your purview is the enforcement side and by the Sheriff's Department, and also it's your commission that receives the reports monthly of collisions, again, between vehicles, on bicyclists, and on pedestrians. And it's very informative in a variety of ways. Occasionally, these collisions are reported in the press. It's quite unusual. Sergeant Duran described one of those earlier this month, which was particularly horrific. That was the evening of last Monday's council meeting. I left late and came upon that scene at about midnight. It was yellow taped off. Sheriff's Department was investigating. By that time, they were the only ones left there. The others had left. But the next morning, I was going by that intersection, which is Fountain Avenue and Havenhurst Avenue, and I discovered this sock, which was just outside the crosswalk in the intersection. And it had not been there the evening before when I was going to the council meeting on that Monday night. The person was ejected quite some distance, so they probably lost some articles of clothing, but can't be sure of the origin of this. You will probably have noticed in your last month's meeting that there were 10 collisions between vehicles and pedestrians in April. 20% of those were on Fountain Avenue. And at the intersections next to Havenhurst, meaning Harper and Sweetser, no report in the press. That's a sad thing. Everything becomes sanitized. Most of the drivers have no idea what's happening. So continued publicity about these would help. Some would say that there should be more enforcement. Thank the Sheriff's Department for your motor officer. Saw them active this morning. But the Sheriff's Department cannot be everywhere all the time. The only way to control the situation, to force drivers to slow down and stop driving dangerously, is to change the structure of the street. There's a proposal in front of the city to do that, and I hope that all of you will be supportive of what would be a very effective action. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. And our final speaker is Nick Roybal. You will have 3 minutes.
Hi, Commissioners. I would be remiss if I didn't this talk about DUIs and people driving under the influence. I am an alum of Loyola High School here in Los Angeles. And last week, Braun Levy was mowed down and murdered by a DUI driver in the city of Manhattan Beach. In honoring Braun Levy's family, and as an alum of Loyola High School, as a fellow Cub, he was a rising tennis superstar, set to graduate in 2 weeks. And so as I begin thinking, Commissioner Pilarski, your question about DUIs within our own city of West Hollywood, what can we do in the Rainbow District, the Fountain Speed Race Highway? How can we create a campaign where we care about each other, right? So senseless deaths don't have to occur, you know? And so I begin thinking about that, and I do wonder, for you commissioners, if there's something we can do in our own city, right? In the Rainbow District, with our bars, with our clubs, with our restaurants as well. Because I don't think anybody's life has to be taken. And if that was, you know, an 18-year-old in the city of Manhattan Beach, Braun, that could be any one of us here in this city. where our lives are taken and families ruined. So I just wanted to honor Braun Levy's life and ask each of you commissioners what we can do in our own city to make it safer. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick, and that is all for the public speakers.
Thank you, Sergeant. Thank you, Lieutenant. Oh, Acting Captain, sorry. Item 9 on our agenda is items from staff. Are there any community safety updates?
Good evening, Chair, and thank you, members of the Commission. As a reminder, at the June Public Safety Commission meeting next month, we will have a presentation from the city's Human Services Division. They will be providing a comprehensive overview of the various services and resources available within our community. Additionally, at the following Public Safety Commission meeting in July, we will welcome a presentation from Athens, who will share valuable safety tips related to trash and disposal. On May 20th, there will be a CERT alumni meeting at 6 p.m. at the ARC in the Doheny Room for West Hollywood residents who have received CERT training in the past years to allow for an opportunity to stay connected, network, and discuss emergency preparedness in our community. We invite West Hollywood residents who have completed their CERT training to join us. Please save the date for National Night Out, which will be on August 5th this year. We will have a complete list of National Night Out neighborhood events on the City of West Hollywood Public Safety website by the end of June. City staff and our public safety partners are in full gear in preparation for Pride 2025, which will take place in a few weeks on May 30th through June 1st. We look forward to another successful and safe event. Next, I'll pass it to Danny Rivas, Community Safety Director, for additional updates. Thank you.
Thank you, Anita, and good evening, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the Public Safety Commission. Danny Rivas, Director of Community Safety for the city. I did want to bring to the Public Safety Commission's attention, as well as to the community, that we recently have been communicated with by the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department executive team that our drone as first responder program has raised a different perspective as it relates to recordation of the flights of the drone itself. And so this recent development has now caused us to pause the implementation. I know commissioners have asked in the past, as well as the City Council, in terms of when we plan to roll out the Drone as First Responder program. That was slated to more or less be in operation. We were shooting for Pride weekend or just before Pride. That does not look like it is going to be the case. So this change in perspective ultimately will have to now be brought before the City Council for further discussion. So we are looking at bringing an item on June 9th. And so part of that discussion as well, which will be separate from the drone as first responder kind of update, and in light of the recent news that we've heard from the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, that June 9th meeting will also be dedicated to community safety and well-being overall, where you'll have a robust discussion as it relates to the homeless services initiative, the city's plan and approach to how we interact and deal with our unhoused community members. And I know that's something that we brought forth and mentioned to the Public Safety Commission. So, but we also wanted to just make mention to the Public Safety Commission and the community at this time that there will be a separate item, as I mentioned, that will be dedicated in terms of discussing further the perspective recently that's been brought to our attention by the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. So that concludes my update and staff's updates, and of course we're happy to answer any questions that the commission may have.
Any questions from the commissioners? No. Thank you. Item 10 on our agenda is second round of public comments. Commission Secretary, do we have any speakers at this time?
Yes, we do have one public speaker. Kevin Burton, if you want to approach the podium, you'll have 3 minutes.
Good evening again, Commissioners. Kevin Burton, resident of West Hollywood, and I just wanted to add to what the Public Safety Manager commented on with regard to CERT about they're having a reunion on the 20th. It's much appreciated, the city having set that up. But also, as we speak, there is a CERT, which is Community Emergency Response Team training, going on several weeks. There will be a graduation the week following the reunion, and that's always a good time for the trainees. This is actually very timely training, given the fires. And what became evident, that a lot of people really don't know what to do in an emergency, to help yourselves, to help your family, to help your neighbors. And this is a wonderful opportunity offered by the city and the county fire department, and we lost our fire department representative, to learn a lot that you can do to help yourselves and your family and your neighbors before emergency services arrive. And that's the key role of CERT trainees, because in a big disaster, we saw that in January, they're overstretched. Because in the city of West Hollywood, there are something like, I think, 19, 20 firefighters on duty at any one time. And if there's a big emergency, there aren't going to be enough of them to go around. You've got to know something about how to help yourselves. And this kind of training, which is offered by the city and the county fire department traditionally, is just the way to find out. And we're looking forward to having additional trainings, hopefully, this year, because usually these trainings are heavily oversubscribed. People try to sign up, only a small fraction actually get in, because the size of the class has to be limited. It's very much hands-on involved, a lot of supplies involved. You're in there doing things. You're not just sitting there taking notes. And so there is a great need in the city for having several trainings a year. And I am involved with a local group of CERT trainees, WehoResearch, and you can look us up on the web, wehoresearch.org. And I and others of our group are hopeful there will be further trainings this year to satisfy what is a great need. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. And that is all for the public speakers.
Thank you. Item 11 on our agenda is commissioner comments. Do any commissioners have comments at this time? Commissioner Pilarski?
All right, I'll go first. I'm the new one. First and foremost, I wanted to say thank you to Mayor Byers. I completely blanked last time, so thank you to Mayor Byers for giving me the opportunity to add a new perspective, a broader perspective. My second item, I'm going to swap with my fourth item. I wanted to echo the concerns of all of the residents regarding street safety, particularly Victor for his writing comments, Kevin for speaking tonight, and Nick as well. That takes a lot out of you, right? A family friend of mine was walking a year ago on Mother's Day and was also mowed down by a drunk driver and lost forever. So we need to stop encouraging people to drive to a bar and have 10 drinks and then drive home. That's not something we want them to do. I know that this experience isn't unique. We all know someone that's been a victim of some traffic violence. And I say we as the collective we. And we all know that there are things that can be done to slow our streets down in the name of someone's life. And I know that this commission has received presentations for Vision Zero, which is a very active report that the city has put together, many different recommendations in there to save people's lives. So I just want to continue to reiterate this point. I know last week we talked about our traffic areas of concern. We all listed them, so everyone listening tonight can go back to that presentation or that commission meeting and listened to the areas of concern that all of us had. And then, as Kevin mentioned, these should be addressed in our Transportation Commission. My second item, or now my third, is I wanted to commend Danny, Anita, Erica, Acting Captain Lapton, Sergeant Duran, Battalion Chief Kevin Price for their tremendous time on Saturday. So as part of the Spring 2025 Civic Leadership Academy, I wanted to show everybody this is an exponential way to learn about the city. We were able to go and tour some of the public safety facilities that the city has. Danny gave an exceptional presentation on the org chart of all of public safety in West Hollywood. And I was just thinking as he was giving that presentation, it would be great to have like a public safety placemat that puts all those org charts in one place. I really enjoyed that kind of like puzzle piece visual that you guys did, so I'm just kind of thinking through how I can make that more exciting for everyone. So thank you so much. That was great. National Bike Month is May. I know May is a lot of national things, but the City of West Hollywood has a National Bike Month pop-up tomorrow from 8 to 10. At 8753 Santa Monica, just east of Hancock Ave. So if you are going to jump on your bike and go get some bike lights, have a croissant, talk to city staff, and they thank you for them, their effort in putting that together and really caring about the people that choose to not use a vehicle to get around. And then my last item was kind of bringing into I've been going out and talking to people, and I've really enjoyed the outreach part of this role. And something that has been coming up is a little question about the neighborhood watch groups and some confusion around who the captains are, what the block arrangement is, what the org chart of those neighborhood watch groups are. So I know that's not necessarily like a city-run item, but it does feed into public safety. So I was just thinking maybe there could be maybe a presentation by the block captains to the commission, just so like new and veteran neighbors alike could just get an overview of how that works so they know who to reach out to for where they live in the city. So thank you so much.
Commissioner Ring.
Thank you, Chair. There's a few things now that Commissioner Perlarski said what she said. I did actually request that maybe we invite the watch groups to come in. I think also, in addition to people wanting to know, I think what would be really helpful for us is that, there's 3 or 4 of us that live on the east side. Actually, there's 5 of us that live on the east side. And I think what would be helpful about that is it would help us understand the different issues in different neighborhoods. So I will, again, I don't know if we need to make a motion for that, if there's a way to actually officially invite them in. I think that would be really helpful. And then to comment about bars and drinking and driving. Especially here in our city, I wish it ran every night, but we have the trolley, which people can take from I think Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. There's also a new service called Metro Micro. It's not running in our city yet, but I believe it's a free app, and I don't know if it's our like $2 rides, so that's another option for people not to be drinking and driving. And then to sort of comment on something that Kevin Burton said, I think something that would really be great is allowing people just to drop in on CERT. I think that, I don't know if it's 6 or 8 weeks, but you learn something different for every meeting. So I think it's really worth allowing people just to drop in, because the safer we all are, the more we all learn, the safer we all are. And then lastly, this is our last meeting before Pride, so I want to wish everyone a happy and safe Pride. I want to thank all the staff and all of our safety partners, because I know the job that you're about to do. So thank you in advance for keeping us safe. And I'll say, in the past, I didn't want to participate. I think the first year I became a commissioner was right after the Monterey Park shooting. And actually now Council Member Hang really went out of his way to let me know how safe the city keeps us, what a great job Director Rivas is doing, and all of our sheriffs. And I just want to comment that I found that to be very true, that every Pride I've participated in since becoming a commissioner, I've felt completely safe, and it's thanks to you all. So I'm wishing you all, I hope you all get some sleep, and I hope that you all have a happy and safe Pride. Thank you.
Just to piggyback on what Commissioner Eng said, we are entering Pride season, or we are in Pride season. It's just a few weeks away. And I just want to remind the community not to forget what Pride is really all about, and to be vigilant, be aware of your surroundings. If you see something, say something. Don't bring a lot of attention to you, and just have a good time and be safe. Any other commissioner comments? The Public Safety Commission will adjourn to the next regularly scheduled meeting on Monday, June 16, 2025 at 6 p.m. in the West Hollywood Public Park Meeting Room, Council Chambers.
A city that has for so long been at the forefront of fighting this epidemic, and now we get a chance to memorialize these people, these stories, and their impact that they've had as part of this story.
Well, we hope it's inspiring, visually beautiful. We want it to be an attraction, so it'll get people here to see it, and then once they're here, it's going to be a beautiful art piece to experience, but also to learn.
I think they're just the experience.